Welcome to another episode of the Teaching Tidbits series. We are happy to have Professor Jacqueline DiSanto, who is an associate professor from the Education Department. And the topic of this episode is called How to Use Rubrics as Teaching Tools. And Professor DiSanto is going to tell us how she came about starting to use rubrics as teaching tools.
I'm going to go way back to when I started teaching almost 40 years ago. You took points off for everything. So you got this beautiful looking paper, you read it once and you said, wow, they've got some great information in there. And then you got your red pen and you started to take off a point for this, a point for that, a point for this. And the grade started to go down and down. And you said, but when I read it the first time, it sounded good. We don't do that anymore. It's punitive. You use the word, it's punitive. The early childhood education program, together with the other programs and units in my department, started to work with our assessment fellow, Catherine Lewis, on incorporating rubrics into one specific course, one specific assignment across each course. That was easy to do. We're teachers, so we knew how to create a rubric. What we didn't really feel comfortable with was, how are we going to bring this into the classroom? What do we do with it? While we were designing them, we thought about, what are we going to tell the students? They will panic when we say, here, this is what we're judging you by. But when we use it as a teaching tool, it was kind of a way of flipping the classroom. We were flipping the assessment. It's not, we're taking points away. Decide how many points you want to earn and how much time and effort and energy you have to bring to this assignment.
How do you implement this whole process of bringing the rubrics to the approach that you wanted?
So we designed the rubric based on what exactly do we really need them to do in this paper. They're going to do more. They're going to bring in other things, but what do we want to grade here? And they need to know this. So we looked at gen ed competencies, which 1, 2, maybe 3 are we covering, and then the specific directions for the assignment. We oftentimes forget or don't really spend enough time, because we're so pressed for time in the classroom, to really go over the directions. When you give it to them in a chart and say, read the directions, check them off, because you're earning points. We're not taking points away. You're going to earn points. Then it's a tool.
Students now have control of how their assignments are being assessed. How did you see the reactions from students? What benefits did you see coming up from applying this approach?
I saw more ownership, even when the grade was low. They owned it. So students who are working overtime, or they have 5, 6 classes, or they're really having trouble in the class, they get to, I use a rubric out of 4. So they get to 2 and they say, I can't do anymore. I'm okay with this. They own it. They're not coming in bothered, worried, feeling as though I'm going to judge them. I like to tell them that if you use the rubric and really use it as a reference point, you should know your grade before I do. You should be able to look at it and say, I'm handing in a paper that's going to get a 3 on this line, a 4 on this line, a 1 on this line, and I'm okay with this.
If you had to highlight the most important benefits that you've seen in the way that you're teaching, what changed in how you do it now?
It made me clearer, much more purposeful when I explain things, and I think the benefit for the students is that I was more focused. I knew exactly what I wanted to get from them, and I can push everything else, all the extras that were involved in that assignment, to the side.
And one last question. What additional feedback would you like to offer to faculty who want to use this strategy?
Okay. One thing I would suggest is keep the students in the loop from the very beginning. Really look at what matters most to you as far as what you need them to be working on, as far as skill, content information, and be prepared to revise. The education department worked on this for every course in our department across 4 programs, and we did it together. Sometimes having fresh eyes makes you realize I'm going too deep in one area and not enough in the other.
So we are hoping that this episode of the Teaching Tidbits was helpful for you, and we're hoping that you use this approach. And we'll see you until the next time we have another episode of Teaching Tidbits. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. Can I say a shout out to the education department, because everybody in my department was working on this.
Perfect. Thank you.